The Sentinel is known to be reliable, fearless, disciplined, consistent, courageous, motivated, and skillful.
So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances.
All these qualities start from the mind. Your mind can be your worst enemy or your most powerful weapon.
The world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
Is this the dagger?
Learn how to achieve greatness and tap into the Sentinel mindset.
Well, today, guys, we have a very, very special guest. We're going to be showing you some behind-the-scenes footage of what we captured in Miami for the Protection Symposium 4.0. And you're going to see some footage of Mike Pannone. Now, who is Mike Pannone? First of all, let me just say this before I tell you his bio. I mean, Mike was an incredibly genuine guy.
Yes.
A chance to see him and see his conversation, see his thinking, it really impressed me just how he thought everything so methodically. Now, who is he? He's a former operations member of the U.S. Marine, and he was part of the Army Special Forces, the Green Beret, the Delta Force. I mean, this guy had that experience, and he has a company called CTT Solutions. And it's a disabled veteran-owned small business specifically tailored to the needs of higher-level military.
And he'd know that because he's legally disabled.
That's correct,
right? You know.
And oh man, should we say what happened to Mike?
Yeah, I mean we could.
Absolutely.
I mean we.
Why not?
Yeah.
He shared it from the stage.
Yeah.
You know, he had. It was I guess it was a blast, right?
Yeah,
it was an explosion, man.
I forget which country he was in when it happened, but it blew off half his face.
Right.
And I think he said 20 reconstructive surgeries to build his face back. Has a glass eye.
Yes.
And the most amazing heart. Like you can tell, he's a guy that at any moment in any day can talk about what it means to protect people,
right?
And how to equip people to have the right mentality and mindset to protect people.
If you knew my background, you'd be like, God, they let them have guns? Anyway, I've worked with people with a second grade education in third world countries, all the way up to people with, advanced degrees and doctors and surgeons and all that, okay? I can pick it out. So that's what we do. Now what we're gonna do is go over the vehicles. You're gonna get a vehicle, put a seatbelt on. When I press the timer, you're just gonna get out of the vehicle. It's gonna be one at a time in one vehicle. Everybody's gonna see my watch. You're gonna get out and just get a shot off on steel. I just want you to see, how long does it take me to get out of a car? How long does it take me to take my seatbelt off, open a door, get out of a vehicle, and break a shot? Because that's going to be important when you start looking at if you're going to turn and face a threat, or if you're going to turn and draw a gun and fire, okay? Because we have to have metrics. In order to evaluate technique, you have to have some reference point. That reference point is time in most combative engagements. You only have so much time to do certain things. You only have so much time to make decisions. I mean, we talked about it yesterday. You only have a sliver of time to make a decision. And the longer you take, the more that situation changes. You only have a sliver of time, a snapshot, a couple seconds to take an action that can lead you to another successful action. If you waste that time, or if you are inefficient, you are giving away time that you can't get back, and things get away from you. Okay, so the goal is to control this thing as rapidly as possible. That's done by minimizing the use of time through efficiency.
You know that if we kept asking questions, he would just keep talking,
and
sharing and pouring and giving of himself. He told us in a 52-week year, he travels 39 to 42 weeks a year.
Right.
He's on the road,
right,
pouring out.
One specific thing I look for:
Trigger.
That's what I look for. Everything else we can work with. If you don't intuitively remove your finger from the trigger after you've engaged, then I have to deal with that. Okay. If when you're done, you do 1, 2, 3, and you bring the gun in to reload it, your finger intuitively comes off the trigger. I can work with your grip. If it's not optimal, that's a different block of instruction. If this hook stays in there, that doesn't work for me. Okay? So that's what I'm looking for. So if you're wondering what the hell's he doing this, I can tell who is more or who is less athletic. Okay, and a lot of times I can tell the kind of sports that they do by that from having done a bunch of different sports. But aside from that, the big takeaway for me is that. Because when we're moving around vehicles, I don't want bad things to happen because people are not in control. If you step up here and you're doing that, then that's a huge problem, and nobody's even close to it. And I look at the time it takes from when you release the trigger, your finger comes out of the trigger guard, based on the decision not to continue to engage, and that tells me if it's a conscious thought or an unconscious thought, subconscious thought. Okay, if you go bang, and then remove your finger, it's a conscious thought, and that can be a problem. Nobody here did that, so that's good.
That's Mike, guys. Enjoy. Coming up next on Executive Protection Lifestyle. Canada.
Moving right into our next instructor, who's also another living legend, the infamous Mike Pannone. And he's going to be teaching us how to fight around our vehicles, right? So with all the rideshare services we see in the world, yeah, sometimes you're inside vehicles, but then with transitional spaces, sometimes you're outside of vehicles, right? So learning how to fight in and around vehicles is going to be amazing. Mike Pannone is of the highest pedigrees of our different fighting forces around the world. He's been teaching internationally and domestically for decades on how to survive violent altercations and gunfighting. He's a living legend.
Literally, I think one of the things that we always want to talk about is the mindset. And, you know, this is a conference that has a lot of people here that are, you know, here to be protectors, or that they know in their heart they're protectors. And there's a lot of people that want to be protectors. Yeah. And we talk a lot about mindset where we come from, and I think everyone can relate to like the mindset of what can take you to the next level. When you look at protectors, what would you say is the quality of the mindset? Like where does the mindset need to be a true protector?
I think a lot of it has to do with you believing in what you do. Okay, you've got to take on this job with a belief that it's somehow, for lack of better terms, like a sacred responsibility. Because what I said in there, you are holding in your hands, if you're protecting someone, the most valuable thing they have, which is their life.
Right.
And so you've got to truly believe in it to a point where you're willing to sacrifice yourself in some capacity or in all capacities for your client. But it's the mindset comes from the belief in what you do and how important it is. And it also comes from the lifestyle you lead. If you train for it and you prepare for it, you're continually conditioning your mind to act in the appropriate manner, not necessarily the most enjoyable or the most safe manner, but the best manner possible to protect your client or whomever it is that you're protecting, whatever capacity you're in. And so to me, the mindset comes from the life that you lead professionally and the emotional commitment that you have to it. Okay,
what would you think would be the obstacle then, like the biggest obstacle that maybe you've seen throughout the years that kind of limits people from just, you know, going there?
If you were doing it for personal aggrandizement, you're doing it to be cool. You're doing it because it's a job where you get to post up and posture, and everybody sees you're working with so and so. You're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Right.
If you're okay being invisible.
Right.
Okay. If you really believe in what you do, and you're an advance agent.
Right.
And nobody ever sees you, and nobody ever knows you.
Right.
And you still really believe in it.
Right.
That tells me that you get it.
Right.
If you only want to be on the detail, working on the principle, because then everybody sees you, and it's kind of the cool job. And then you're in the wrong spot. And
do you think the majority of people that you like in the industries all over the world would almost lean towards that Kevin Costner bodyguard kind of vibe?
I think it has an initial attraction, and it's difficult for people to get notoriety and others to not get notoriety, but all be working just as hard. And I think there's some people that feel like it's the better job, or it has the better opportunities going forward if you're seen.
Okay.
And that's not necessarily the truth. A guy that ran a site, that ran a detail, my advance agent was barely ever seen, if ever.
Right.
And he was incredibly important. He was so crucial because he was the foundation for the move.
Right.
And so nobody really knew him. The principal would see him and was like, "Is he one of your guys?" I'm like, "Yes, sir. He's our advance guy." He's like, "Oh, I haven't seen him before."
Wow.
But I couldn't have done it without him.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so that's the point. It's like he wasn't doing it. He was great at being an advance agent, and he was fine doing it. He was fine not being in the limelight, but his dedication to it is what made him great at it. He believed in it. He took pride in his job, and he believed in it. And that's, again, the mindset part comes for your professional development and your emotional commitment.
Right.
Are you doing this because you there's something in you that is a protector that believes in it, okay? Or you're doing it because in some way it's personal aggrandizement. I get seen, I get known, I have a cool job, it gives me some sort of status, and that aside from keeping you from being the best you can be, it leads you in a bad direction because your mind is thinking about how do I look to everyone else, and so it's thinking about how I appear as opposed to what I see outside. My mind is not in the right spot, and I think it's something that the older guys or women on the detail need to guide the younger ones. Like, hey, this isn't about you. Keep reminding them, this is about the principle. This is about the client, not you. So it's a team effort in all those ways.
I mean, one last thing to kind of throw out there. So a lot of people that hear, again, you hear the word, say, born protectors. Like you were just born. You're either gifted in really good sports. I mean, for me in basketball, I'm a tall guy, but I'm not good. But a lot of people are like, it's just in there. They're just naturally gifted. How do you know when you're naturally a protector? It's like some people.
I think it's when you stand up for people as a kid, that you don't have to.
Okay.
At your own peril.
Right.
When you decide that it's not, what's happening to them is not fair, and you
Right.
won't stand by and watch it.
Right.
There's something in you that says that's unfair, it's wrong. There's a really morally powerful sense of right and wrong.
Right.
And those are the people that end up being protectors.
Wow.
And the women and the guys that I've worked with that have been really good, they're the people that'll stop and feed a stray dog or a stray cat. They don't like to see someone in jeopardy or in peril. Just as anything that's living, they don't want to see it in any way in distress.
That's right.
And you can see it. It doesn't mean that they're harmless or that it just means that they have a sense of right and wrong that is very distinct, and it's very emotionally and morally poignant to them. And so those people, those are the ones that are natural.
Okay.
You get some that get on the detail and they learn it. It's almost like through osmosis.
Yes.
They get around good people.
Yes.
And they constantly hear. I was always telling my guys when I was running a detail overseas, like, this isn't about us. It isn't about you. It's about the client, whoever
Right.
that is.
Right.
And over time, you learn that there's a selfless part of it that's actually rewarding.
Yes.
And that some people have it naturally, and some people acquire it. And there are some people that never do.
Right.
But overwhelmingly, with the proper leadership, you can guide everyone there if they're not there just naturally.
Right. Well, Mike, thank you so much, man. I love the honesty. I love the genuineness that just oozes out of you, man. And I appreciate it. I think a lot of people will find immense value in doing this, especially if they're actually, maybe sometimes I think you can be a born protector and not know it. Meaning, as in you're just naturally doing it all the time.
I think you'll see people that work at a auto garage or work in an office, doing IT or whatever,
Right.
and a car drives off the road and goes in the river.
Right.
And you'll see them stop their vehicle and get out and run down there and dive in the freezing cold water
Right.
to try and grab a woman and pull her out of her vehicle.
Right.
That may be someone that never thought about being a protector
Right.
anytime in their life, but it's in them, and
in
it's
their
obvious
DNA.
because it came out.
That's right.
Someone is in peril or in jeopardy, and I can help them, and so something in me tells me I'm obligated to do
Yes.
it. That's a protector by nature,
Amazing.
and whether or not they're in this trade is immaterial.
Yes.
It's in them.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week and don't forget to subscribe.